A powerful king once ruled with an iron fist. His palace stood high above the people. His word was law. His anger was feared, and his pride knew no limits. But in his kingdom, there was a secret that even his soldiers could not crush. It was the light of faith, the truth of the one God, the truth that spread quietly in the hearts of the people. The king hated this truth. He despised anyone who dared believe in a power greater than his throne. He wanted to be worshipped. He demanded loyalty to his throne, and he punished anyone who whispered otherwise. Among his people was a young boy, pure in heart, curious, brave, and unlike anyone else. This boy's journey would shake the throne of a tyrant. The boy was not born in the palace. He did not wear the robes of royalty. He walked barefoot in the dust of the streets, but destiny was written for him, a destiny of sacrifice, a destiny of truth, a destiny that would live forever. The boy grew up hearing about the king's cruelty. He saw how people feared to speak. He saw how people bowed in silence. He saw the fear in their eyes, but inside the boy's heart there was no fear. Inside him was a flame of courage. The boy's path led him to a monk, an old man, wise, gentle, and full of faith in the one true God. The monk taught him the truth, that no king deserves worship, that no throne is greater than the throne of the Creator, that faith is worth more than life itself. The boy listened, the boy believed, the boy's heart opened, and faith entered his soul. But the boy's journey was not easy. Every day he faced a choice, to live quietly in fear, or to live loudly with truth. He chose truth. The king soon heard whispers of a boy, whispers of a child who spoke against him, whispers that this boy claimed a lord greater than the king. The tyrant grew restless. His pride was hurt. His throne was shaking. The king called for the boy. Soldiers dragged him before the throne. The crowd gathered. The boy stood small before the mighty ruler. The king looked down at him with rage. "Do you not know who I am?" The king thundered. The boy did not bow. The boy did not tremble. The boy lifted his eyes and spoke. "You are nothing before my lord." The court gasped. The king's face burned red. Never had anyone dared to defy him. Never had a child stood so firm. The king ordered punishment. He sent the boy to magicians. He sent him to soldiers. He sent him to executioners. But nothing worked. Every attempt to kill him failed. Every sword that struck him missed. Every beast that was unleashed against him refused to harm him. It was as if the boy was protected by the unseen, protected by the one he believed in. The people whispered. The people watched. The boy's courage spread like fire. The king's throne began to tremble. The boy became a symbol of faith, a symbol of defiance, a symbol of hope. The king grew desperate. He summoned his soldiers again. He looked at the boy with hatred. He said, "If you want to live, deny your Lord." The boy's eyes were steady. The boy's voice was calm. "I will never deny him." The king clenched his fists. He ordered the soldiers to take the boy far away, high into the mountains. He ordered them to throw him down from the cliffs. The soldiers obeyed. They carried the boy up the rocky path. They laughed at him. They mocked him. They told him, "Now your Lord cannot save you." But the boy prayed. The boy whispered to his Lord. And before the soldiers could act, the earth shook. The mountain trembled. The soldiers stumbled. The soldiers fell. And the boy stood alone, unharmed. The boy walked back into the kingdom. He returned to the people. He returned to the palace. The king was furious when he saw him alive. "How are you still here?" The king shouted. The boy answered, "My Lord is greater than your throne." The king ordered another plan. He sent soldiers to take the boy to the sea, to drown him in the deepest waters. The soldiers obeyed. They tied the boy in ropes. They carried him on a boat. They rowed into the dark waters. The waves grew heavy. The sky grew dark. The soldiers prepared to throw him overboard. But once again the boy prayed. The boy whispered to his Lord, and suddenly the sea rose. The waves crashed. The boat overturned. The soldiers drowned. But the boy floated safely to shore. He walked back into the kingdom. The people saw him again, alive, safe, unharmed. Whispers spread. The boy's story was unstoppable now. The king's rage was unstoppable too. The tyrant could no longer hide his fear. He summoned the boy one last time. He looked into his eyes and asked, "What will it take to destroy you?" The boy stood firm. His voice echoed across the hall. "You cannot kill me unless you do it my way." The court froze. The king leaned forward. "What is your way?" he demanded. The boy spoke with calm courage. "Gather all the people. Gather them in one place. Tie me to a tree. Take an arrow. But not with your name. With the name of my Lord. And only then will you succeed." The king's eyes widened. The boy had challenged him. The boy had set the stage. The boy had sealed his fate. The king hesitated. But his pride was too strong. He wanted to prove his power. He wanted to show the people that even this boy could be defeated. He agreed. The order was given. The people were gathered. The ground shook with their footsteps. The air filled with whispers. Everyone came to witness. The boy was tied to a tree. His small body looked fragile, but his heart was unshakable. The king took an arrow. The crowd held its breath. The king pulled the bowstring. He aimed at the boy. But this time, he whispered the words the boy had told him. "In the name of the Lord of this boy." The arrow flew. The arrow struck. The boy fell. His soul returned to his Lord. But what happened next shook the kingdom forever. The crowd froze. Silence filled the air. The boy's body lay still beneath the tree, his face calm, his sacrifice complete. But in that silence, something stirred in the hearts of the people. They remembered his words. They remembered his courage. They remembered his faith. And then, from one corner of the crowd, a voice broke the silence. "The Lord of the boy is the only Lord." Another voice joined. "The Lord of the boy is the only Lord." And then hundreds, and then thousands. The entire crowd cried out, "The Lord of the boy is the only Lord." The king's face turned pale. His heart pounded in fear. The very thing he had tried to stop had now spread like wildfire. His own hands had given victory to the boy's message. His own pride had destroyed his throne. The boy had died, but the truth had risen. The boy's body was gone, but his faith lived on in the people. The king's palace shook not with stones, but with belief, and no sword could silence it now. The tyrant screamed in rage. He ordered his soldiers to silence the people. He commanded them to build a trench, a long, deep trench across the land. He ordered it to be filled with fire, a fire so great it roared into the sky, a fire so hot it devoured the air. The king's plan was brutal. He shouted to the people, "Whoever refuses to return to my worship will be thrown into the fire." The flames crackled, the smoke rose, the heat burned the ground, and the soldiers stood ready to push anyone who defied the king. But the people did not turn back. The boy's sacrifice had lit their hearts. They remembered his courage. They remembered his words. And one by one, they declared, "The Lord of the boy is our Lord." The soldiers grabbed them. They dragged men, women, and children. They stood them before the fire. They gave them one last chance to bow to the king, but the people refused. And so they were thrown into the blazing trench. The flames roared. The screams echoed. But faith did not break. The fire devoured bodies, but it could not devour belief. The people chose faith over life, sacrifice over fear, truth over tyranny. Among them was a mother. She clutched her baby close. Her eyes filled with tears. Her body shook with fear. She looked at the fire. She looked at her child. For a moment, her heart wavered. She thought of turning back. She thought of saving her baby. But then, a miracle. The baby looked at her. The baby spoke words no infant could speak. "Mother, do not be afraid. You are on the truth." Her tears turned into courage. She pressed her baby to her chest, and she stepped into the fire with faith. The crowd gasped. Even the soldiers trembled. But the king only grew more furious. His heart hardened further. He thought he was destroying faith, but he was only making it stronger. The trench of fire burned for hours. The smoke rose high into the sky. The smell of burning flesh filled the land. Yet, with every life lost, the people's faith only grew. They were not defeated, they were victorious. Because they had chosen their Lord over the king. The boy's sacrifice had not ended with his death. It had spread to every soul that followed him into the fire. It had written their story in history. It had carved their faith into the hearts of believers for generations to come. The king sat on his throne, but his throne no longer felt safe. The cheers of loyalty had turned into cries of faith. The people no longer feared him. The people no longer worshipped him. His power was crumbling. His rule was cracking. His crown was worthless. The boy, though gone, had destroyed the king's pride. The boy, though martyred, had given victory to faith. The boy's story had become eternal. The trench of fire was remembered. The cries of the people were remembered. The sacrifice of mothers, fathers, and children was remembered. And above all, the words that spread like lightning were remembered. The Lord of the boy is the only Lord. Centuries later, the story still echoes. A story of a tyrant who tried to be God. A story of a boy who stood against him. A story of a people who chose fire over falsehood. A story of faith. A story of sacrifice. A story that cannot be silenced. The king thought he had won. He thought he had crushed rebellion. He thought he had silenced truth. But when he looked into the eyes of his people, he saw no fear. He saw no loyalty. He saw only faith. The boy's victory was written in their hearts. The king's defeat was written in history. The fire of the trench became a fire of memory, a fire that still burns in the lessons of faith. The people became martyrs. The boy became a legend, and the tyrant became a warning to every king, a warning to every oppressor, a warning to every throne that dares challenge the throne of God. The boy had shown the world that truth does not die, that faith cannot be burned, that courage can outlive fear, that even a child can shake a kingdom. And though his body lay in the dust, his story lived on in the hearts of the believers forever. The smoke from the trench slowly faded. The ashes of the martyrs mixed with the wind. The fire that had devoured their bodies could not devour their faith. The land was silent. The kingdom was scarred. But the truth had been written in the hearts of all who remained. The boy's sacrifice was complete. The people's courage was eternal. And the tyrant's throne was broken, though he still sat upon it. The king walked through his palace halls, but every stone reminded him of the boy. Every echo reminded him of the voices that shouted, "The Lord of the boy is the only Lord." His crown felt heavy. His throne felt empty. His pride felt shattered. He had tried to crush the truth, but instead he had spread it. He had tried to silence a child, but that child's words became eternal. He had tried to rule as a god, but now he was only a man trembling before the real God. The people whispered the boy's story in their homes. Fathers told it to their sons. Mothers told it to their daughters. Children told it to each other in the streets. It became more than a memory. It became a lesson. It became a light in the darkness. The story of the boy spread beyond the kingdom. Travelers carried it to other lands. Merchants spoke of it in marketplaces. Nomads sang of it in deserts. It traveled from tongue to tongue, from heart to heart, until it became a story for all believers. The boy was gone, but his Lord remained. The martyrs were gone, but their Lord remained. And no tyrant could ever erase their faith. Generations passed. Empires rose and fell. Kings were crowned and dethroned, but the story of the boy never died. It was carried in scripture. It was carried in prayer. It was carried in the faith of those who remembered. And whenever believers faced oppression, they remembered the boy. Whenever tyrants demanded worship, they remembered the boy. Whenever fire threatened their lives, they remembered the boy. And they found courage in his sacrifice. Because the boy had shown that even the smallest voice can shake the largest throne. The boy had shown that even the weakest body can carry the strongest faith. The boy had shown that even in death, victory belongs to truth. The trench became a symbol, not of defeat, but of strength, not of despair, but of hope, not of destruction, but of eternal faith. The boy had left the world, but his story reached the heavens. The angels carried his soul in honor. The Lord received him with mercy, and his place in paradise was secured, while the tyrant's palace turned to dust, while the tyrant's name became cursed. While his throne became nothing but ruins, the people who followed the boy into the fire became martyrs. Their sacrifice was not wasted. Their cries were not forgotten. Their ashes were written into history, and their faith became eternal light. The tyrant's army feared the memory of the boy. The tyrant's soldiers feared the whispers of the people. The tyrant himself feared the night, for in every shadow he heard the boy's voice. In every silence he heard the people's cry. The Lord of the boy is the only Lord. And so the tyrant's victory was hollow. His throne was cracked. His crown was empty. His fire had failed. The boy had shown the world something greater than kings, greater than crowns, greater than fire. He had shown them the power of faith. He had shown them the courage of sacrifice. He had shown them the truth of God. Centuries later, the story still burns, not in fire, but in memory, not in smoke, but in spirit. It is told in mosques. It is told in homes. It is told in hearts. The boy's courage is remembered when a believer stands alone. The boy's sacrifice is remembered when a believer chooses faith over fear. The boy's victory is remembered when truth triumphs over tyranny. His story is more than a tale. It is a warning to oppressors. It is a promise to the oppressed. It is a light for the believers. And it will never be forgotten, for the boy had defied a king. The boy had embraced sacrifice. The boy had chosen faith, and in doing so, he gave victory to truth for all eternity. The king is gone. The palace is dust. The fire is ash. But the boy's words still live. The Lord of the boy is the only Lord. And those words will echo until the end of time.